Welcome to the garage.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
Nice.
So there's and of course, this is when she wants to come and do her thing. And when the channel, obviously, it's called Dose of Dane, but
Yes.
I've got like a playlist going, and this playlist is called In the Garage, and technically this would be number 2. Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, and I know we just talked about this, but just so the people that may happen to be listening, who are you? If you had to summarize yourself in a few sentences.
My name's Tyler Belcher.
What's your middle name?
Tyler.
What's your first name?
Ernest.
Tyler. You're an Ernest.
I'm an Ernest.
See? We're already getting into the good stuff.
I'm E. Tyler.
E. Tyler. How do you feel about me starting to call you Ernest from here on out?
Doesn't bother me anymore.
Okay.
I'm named after my grandfather, who was like one of the original badasses. So,
Was your father the second badass after him?
yeah.
Okay. And then you skipped a generation and then
And my
Yeah.
son. Yeah, he was Ernest. Named after him and my great uncle, who was Tyler.
Okay. That's cool. Apple doesn't fall far.
Yep. And I was always little Tyler because my great uncle was Big Tyler, but he was maybe 5'5".
Big Tyler was 5'5"?
Big Tyler's 5'5", little Tyler's 6'6".
So we're talking about your grandfather. Or is
My great uncle was Tyler. My grandfather was Ernest.
who was the big?
Big Tyler was my great uncle.
Is he still with us?
Nah. He's
Okay.
gone.
All right.
30 years?
So how tall are you?
6'6".
Okay. Dang, man. 6'6".
My dad was 6'11".
No, he was not.
Yep.
7 feet?
Just under.
Dad was.
Yeah.
How long has Dad not been with us?
My parents both died on September 11th. Not 2001, but that
Good.
date. My mom in 2015 and my dad in 2018.
So
Same
September,
time of a night on the same day.
both September 11th.
Both at the
Different
same-
years, same exact time of day.
Mm-hmm.
Was it similar?
No.
Okay.
My mom just died in her sleep. My dad had a surgery and coded on the table, and they brought him back, but he was out for 20 minutes, and he just never regained. He did. I take that back. He regained consciousness and was lucid for about a day and a half, and then he lapsed basically into a coma.
How old were you at that time?
46.
Okay, so the day and a half ish where he was lucid. Did you speak with him?
Yeah. He had a little trouble with speech, but he recognized my wife, he lived with us at the time. He came and lived with the last 2 years of his life. He lived with us, and so yeah. But he recognized people. He knew what was happening on the news. Big sports guy, knew what was going on. He's a big Atlanta Braves fan. How are the Braves doing in relation to the playoffs? And then he just went out, but went into hospice care. 4 o'clock, we moved him from Johnson Willis to whatever the hospital is downtown. Retreat.
Okay.
Anyway, it's not a hospital. They have a hospice wing, and he was only there for 8 hours.
Until he passed.
Passed away. Yeah.
Well, so that day and a half, I would have been so chocked full of questions. I mean, when forgive me if I'm not being sensitive enough, but passed away, came back for a day and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Did he?
That was so I was waiting for this, I saw a
a
light.
light, yeah.
I did this,
Yeah.
I did that. He didn't.
Man, did he even talk about it? Was it just nothingness?
It was nothing to him. He didn't. He had no. It was like he went to sleep and
woke back up.
Yeah. So it
Interesting.
wasn't a. And like I say, I don't. I've often heard those theories that the light you see is the light in the operating room.
Yeah, that could be.
I still want to believe that's a real light. That's.
Well, so the makers of the Chosen, I guess Angel Studios is what they're called. There's a movie I think dropping in theaters today, 27th, Friday, and it's called The Afterlife, and it's a video about people's stories who have died and come back
Right.
and what they've seen. Have you heard of that?
I didn't know it was. I will look it up. I didn't know it was the case, but I have known people that have had, coded on the table or been brought back and like say that they saw not necessarily their mom or their dad or their grandfather or somebody that had already passed, but people that they knew that had passed and like clearly saw their faces, clearly had conversations with them. And so,
well, and I think I know what you believe. So, I mean, is that like and so if you're coming back, I mean, you're probably not fully where you're going.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, obviously, I'm a believer. I have faith. I also realize that there's real, there's not real was the wrong word. There's science. There's explanations for some of that. I know that your brain is a crazy
chemicals
that when I was telling you about tattooing, 8 hours of tattooing, and I'd had tattoos before, but never sat in a chair for 8 straight hours.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and I told the guy, my artist, I said, I feel kind of high, and he's like, yeah, your brain doesn't understand tattooing. It's just releasing
endorphins,
everything it has, endorphins, adrenaline, serotonin. He's like, it's just throwing everything in your body it can
at this pain that's happening
to try
for 8
to make
hours.
It stop. He said, so your blood's just coursing with all that stuff, and he's like, you probably won't sleep well tonight.
Probably will or will not.
Will not. He said, because it's going to take a while to get all that
back to balance.
Yeah, he said it's a fight or flight thing.
Interesting. Well, your body obviously has natural painkillers, and
right?
You were just getting
dosed. Yep. And so I don't know if these people that see this stuff, is it because their brain is just like going into overdrive and just dumping all the chemicals it can into the bloodstream,
panic mode almost,
right? And then maybe that's. I hate to use hallucination, but maybe it's a little of that, and maybe it's not.
Yeah, who's to say?
That's I'm not going to discount it one way or the other.
Yeah,
it could be either.
We'll find out sooner or later.
Only one way to really find out, I think.
Yeah, you're trying to. What are you doing after this?
Exactly.
So Ernest you got Ernest, and what's the story with your mom?
But you want the whole rundown or
quick version?
So my mom is she was from the Farmville area.
Okay.
So my parents were tiny. Was my dad? I told you 6'11", 350.
Yeah.
Tiny. And then my mom's name was Katie, but everybody called her Kitty. Everybody called her Miss Kitty. Like even my dad called her that. And so, she came to Richmond in 1955-ish.
From Farmville.
They moved back and forth from Farmville to Stanton. My grandmother had, I think, 7 husbands.
Grandmother had 7 husbands.
I'm sure not at the same time. She was married 7 times.
Not a judge. Yeah.
I'm sure my sister, if she watches this, will fill me in and have edited notes correcting me on any of this stuff.
All right. What's your sister's name?
Nancy.
All right.
My oldest sister.
Hey, Nancy.
So she, Matt's mom. You know Matt.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Okay.
But she was married 7 times. One of the guys she was married to twice, but
no way.
Yeah.
Just in case it didn't work. I mean, we have to go find out.
Yep. My grandmother was wild. She drank Colt 45. Always had a Colt 45.
I've never had a Colt 45. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, malt liquor.
Okay.
And she smoked Newports.
Oh man!
And did crossword puzzles. So I have a lifelong addiction to crossword puzzles. We spend a lot of time.
You have that?
Yeah, I do crossword puzzles.
Do you still get the newspaper?
I don't, but I do online. But I refuse to do. I mean, I'm at the level where I only do Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So you cut back, is what you're saying?
No, Friday is the hardest crossword puzzle there is.
Gotcha.
Saturday is a little bit longer, but almost as challenging. Sunday is just a massive amount, but it's not hard.
I had no idea.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I can do this crossword puzzles in 8 minutes.
Is that bringing it from the newspaper, like a different crossword a day?
I go to, so like I didn't know this was going to be a crossword puzzle podcast.
Yeah,
but
just in case you guys.
So they're basically generated out of the LA Times. Chicago Sun Tribune does one, and they kind of push them out to the paper. So when you do the Richmond Times Dispatch crossword, you're doing LA
This should-
Times usually.
Gotcha.
I get it through Washington Post online. It's free,
And
but I have to do crosswords. Right? You learn the words you learn that you didn't know existed. I mean, just you learn.
Yeah, your vocabulary
Your
increases.
vocabulary increases. I mean, exponentially.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a big thing with my kids is reading, doing crossword puzzles. You're never gonna be. You're never gonna be at a loss for being able to use the English language, understanding what people are saying, watching shows, and there are people that watch things on TV or hear things at a speech or a concert or a talk, and they act like they know what the words mean, but they have no idea.
They have no idea. Has anybody ever told you you're kind of like a tip of the iceberg kind of guy? Like what you see on the surface, there's a lot more beneath that.
That's been my whole life. I was always a dumb jock.
Dumb jock.
Yeah.
What?
But if you ever go with me to play, and I'm not bragging, I'm just saying, go with me and play trivia one time or quiz me on something else.
Well, I mean, we've had conversations, and I've seen what you're talking about. So, where were you born?
Here.
Okay, all right.
Well, not here.
And you got 2 daughters.
And a son.
Happily married, 2 daughters and a son. I forget about son's name is
Andrew.
Thank you. I was gonna say Eric.
And 2 grandkids.
He's got the 2.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Lydia and yeah. Married. How long have you been married for?
23 years. Should be easy. I got married in 2000.
Oh, that is easy. Did you plan that?
No, it just happened to be 2000.
There you go.
I think I was so happy that Y2K didn't destroy the world.
Yeah. That was a good New Year's, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's actually, we met right. Kendra and I were married 8 months after we met.
Quick. Okay, so here's a really good question. I've talked to a lot of people about this, about you and Kendra specifically. I'm just joking, but about marriage, and a lot of people. I've noticed some trends. 8 months is a short amount of time. How did you know?
So I had a previous marriage, lasted a whopping 6 months.
Nice.
My son was born when I was 17, so
You were a kid yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
I always say that he and I raised each other. So I had decided that I had seen so many people, and not judging, but I'd seen so many people who were single parents, divorced parents, just run a steady stream of women or, women running men in and out of a kid's life. A kid develops trust issues. They don't, it just...
I'm sure the list goes on.
Oh, yeah. A lot of that stuff. Especially in the society today. So many divorces and people, it's about me. It's not about you. It's about your kids. And so I just decided, I dated people, but I never let anyone meet my son. He and I did everything together. We were together 24 hours a day.
I don't even know how 17 years old, 18, 19. I'm just comparing myself at that. I was a kid, how do you raise a kid? What were you doing for work?
So I was working when I was 17, I was still in high school. but from there, my parents owned a trophy company. Well, my mom owned a trophy company. My dad was a firefighter. And my mom was a CPA by trade, and my dad, his good friend of his had this little tiny trophy shop, and he had like a massive heart attack and just couldn't work anymore. So my dad bought all his stock and decided, hey, we're going to build they started in the basement of my parents' house, and they moved into a 4-bay garage, and then we moved out into a commercial.
That's cool.
So that shop was open for 32 years. So I'd always said all my friends worked when I was in high school, worked at the trophy shop, but I worked at King's Dominion, and
said that.
Yeah, I was not going to work in my family business. But then it became very convenient to work in a family business. I never had to miss plays at school, baseball games. If my son was sick, I could go get him from school. He could come, he grew up in the trophy shop with us, which was behind my parents' house. And so what was the question you asked me? Now I've lost it.
How did
I do it when I was
17-year-old? Yeah.
You do it with the help of your family. I brag all the time. So my 2 youngest daughters, they make money babysitting. They love to babysit. They babysit in there. I've had kids for 34 years now. Never paid a babysitter. It was always my parents, Kendra's parents, my sister, her sister, cousins, and we did the same. And so that you I hate to say the phrase "it takes a village" because
I knew you were going to say
communist.
that.
I
Yeah.
don't like it.
Yeah.
But it takes whatever your group is,
Community.
your community. You rely on people that you're related to. You trust somebody, and so it was that help. My sister worked in the trophy shop at that time. My mom worked in the trophy shop. 2 other ladies from the neighborhood that had known me since I was 3 years old worked in the trophy shop, and he had the best of every world.
Yeah.
And he, good news, bad news. Good news, you always got eyes on you. Bad news, you always got eyes on you. So, yeah, it was that, and so I mean, it took a lot of. But my dad came to me when Andrew was 7 or 8, which would have been 97 or so.
Okay.
And sat me down, and he was like, you need a life outside of your son. And I was like, well, he's my whole life. That's what else
am I
would I
supposed to do? Yeah.
And he said, when he hits high school,
You're going to wish you had something.
he's going to drop you like a bad habit.
Oh,
And he said
that's tough.
he'll come back. He'll come back. But, he's going to, and you're going to be miserable because and it wasn't like I severed relationships with friends but I just
He came first.
Yeah. I would go to Grateful Dead shows, that was my one my one vice, I would hook up with my guys and go see the Grateful Dead, but going out, what a normal 21 to 27-year-old guy would do, just didn't do it. I mean,
Was your dad right?
100%.
Dropped you like a bad habit.
He did. Well, and and like I say, still had the best relationship in the world, still loved each other.
But he
Came
was
to me
off
for
doing
advice,
his own.
but he had, he started playing football, baseball, basketball.
Girls, whatever it may have been.
Buddies,
Yeah.
what everybody does. And, like I say, he was a wise man. He knew what he was talking about. And so I say that to say, so I was never going to, I dated, but I didn't even tell.
That you had a son.
Yeah, because it was none of their business as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
And the ones that did find out would kind of press me hard and be like, well, what's going on? If you can't introduce me to your son, then
How serious are we?
and how serious are we? And I would say, that's a really good point.
Yeah. You have your answer.
See you later. And I just had this thing in the back of my mind, like when it's right, I'll know.
The next person.
Yeah, when it's right,
Okay.
I'll know. And I met Kendra at a cookout. I went with a girl that I was sort of dating.
No, you did not. Okay.
And
all right.
We got into a argument, and she threatened to leave me there. I'm a horrible ultimatum guy. I don't.
You don't do well with
I don't
ultimatums.
do well with ultimatums.
Okay. I'm going to pick on that in the future. I'm listening.
So Kendra will tell you, my wife will tell you that I'm way too old for somebody to dare me to do something, and I feel like I have to do it. Like I just can't walk away from stuff like that. And also, if you say, don't touch this,
It makes you want to touch it. Absolutely.
And I've never been able to work it out of me. So this girl at this party, and we were in the middle of nowhere, and I had had a couple of drinks. I didn't know I wasn't drunk, but I didn't pay attention to where I was going.
Yeah.
This is also pre-GPS, smartphones.
I
So
don't
I'm
know
at
how
a
you
cookout.
got there.
This is how smart I am. I'm at a cookout. It's a birthday party for a person I don't know. I'm not sure where I am. I do know I'm east of the city. I knew that much.
Okay.
But I'm the kind of guy that's like, I'll figure it out. So I basically told her, leave then. So she did. And I was like, all right. So I just kind of started mingling. I've always been able to, you can drop me in any party or anything. I mean, I like to talk. And so I can.
You?
Yeah, hard to believe. But I ended up talking to Kendra, and I was like, So she gave me a ride back because she's like, well, I live in Richmond. I'm like, hey, so do I. Give me a ride back. So we talked. Nothing happened, no anything, and we exchanged phone numbers. And it was a Labor Day or or maybe it was around this time of year. As I get older, I can't remember.
That's fair.
So we talked and we hung out with other people, and the weird thing was, she was friends with a girl who was friends. She was friends with a girl who had a friend that I had dated.
Gotcha.
And knew that I had a son. And so Kendra asked me, she's like, "Do you have a son?" And I was like, "Well, yeah."
Give me your ballpark age at this time. Like how old?
28.
Okay, late 20s. All right. Okay.
28, 29. And we were hanging out in groups. She had moved down from Pittsburgh, and a lot of her friends, everybody from Pittsburgh moves to Richmond apparently, because they ended up in the same apartment complex and didn't know it until they went out to get the mail and were like, "Hey, I know you." And so they kind of hung in a group, guys, girls, So we would play Trivial Pursuit or cards or whatever. And so she asked me, and I was like, "Yeah." And
ask you what, to come play?
No, she would, yeah, come play. But then she asked me if I had a son, and I'm like,
I see.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And I told her the story, and so Andy would have been nine at this time, and so we were talking, and it's really weird. We had our first kiss. She was leaving to go back to Pittsburgh she was a teacher at the time, so she had winter break right before Christmas. Christmas break, sorry, not winter break. Christmas break from school.
Christmas break, not winter break.
Yeah, they call it winter break now.
Oh, times have changed. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And so we went to a party at there's a hotel on almost at Broad and Glenside.
Right there.
On this side, on the east side of 64 before you go over the bridge.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they just tore the hotel down, like the last 3 weeks. Tore it to the ground.
Seriously?
We had our first kiss in that parking lot. And then she went to Pittsburgh for over Christmas and then New Year's. And that was Y2K New Year.
Gotcha. Okay.
And when she came back, obviously we were talking while she was up there on the phone. And I was like, yep. I think she's it. Like it just hit me with like a load of bricks one night. Like, she's it. And so I brought her in. Andy was playing travel baseball. He played on a team that played all over the country or traveled constantly. And so I invited her to go with us. And I mean, she fit right in with everybody. She and Andy clicked right away.
I feel like a 9-year-old would have a hard time. You're not my mother, you know, or like have a hard time accepting.
And we never, we just did it smart. For all of our trouble and issues over the years or when we were married and when we were young, my ex-wife and I, to her credit, we never badmouthed the other. We backed each other up. We never had a formal custody agreement. It was about him. And so I mean that helps build a child that's understanding. His mom got remarried really quickly after we divorced.
Yeah. That's a little bit different than how they do it these days.
And so, and so obviously when I say, like, I didn't run people in and out of his life, so he knew, like, okay, this must be serious, this must be real. And I mean, we just decided right then, we're like, we need to get married. So we got married that August.
8 months later.
Yeah.
I mean, 8 months in total.
Yeah.
And now married for 23 years.
Yep.
You must be doing something right. I don't know how she puts up with you.
She's a saint. But yeah, that's the. But like I say, then when my son got into high school, he was gone all the time. He was at one practice or another or something, and like I say, still tight. We still played ball together and had a good time. But
you had a life.
Yeah, he wasn't available to hang out with me on Friday and Saturday night.
You had to go find other friends.
Yeah. He was, he and I would watch basketball or football or baseball together. I had to figure it out. And then it happened to, he was 10 when we got married, so 5 years into the marriage, that's when he started. But
what's the age gap? So you got Andrew, and then you got your oldest girl,
Abigail.
Yeah.
Andy's 14 years older than Abby.
Okay.
And 15 years older than Lydia.
And so those two, Abby and Lydia, are a year apart. And they don't seem to hate you too much.
No, I mean, might be the luckiest kids in the world. Raising girls is different than raising
That's
a guy.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
But they're all good kids. They're overachievers. Their brother set kind of a high bar for them. He's, the first time he disappoints us, or the next time he disappoints us will be the first time. Like,
really?
Yeah, he's been that kid since he was 5 years old.
Dang, that's quite the accolade.
If he decides to do something, So I coached high school football for 10 years. I only stopped because he started playing. He never had any interest in football. Frankly, I didn't want him playing Little League football because some of the coaching stuff it's dangerous.
In what way? I know nothing.
Tackling, like physically dangerous. Some of the
Gotcha.
stuff they learn. There's some great youth coaches out there, 100%, but some of them don't know what they're doing. And football is not the sport where you want somebody
to mess up or to be teaching the wrong way.
Ducking their head when they're tackling, things like that.
Okay. Interesting.
And the best, we love to get a player as a freshman that never played before, because the first time you put them in a stance, it's the stance you want. The first time you teach them the language of football, how you assign the holes, how you call plays, how you scheme on offense and defense.
Clean slate.
It's fresh. It's clean slate. And so when he decided he wanted to play, I was like, okay, if I was coaching at a different school, I won't be able to watch him play, so I'm going to back out. So but he decided he wanted to play. It was on his own. I never asked him. And he started every game when he was playing JV, and then he got moved up to varsity as a underclassman, and then started every game he ever played. Eventually he was he was all district, all metro, all region.
Jeez.
All first team, all
Set
state.
the bar pretty high.
Honorable mention, all American, but also academic, all American. He just
He took after his mother. Well, actually, I guess his mother's not kinder, is she?
But
welcome to Bethlehem.
But he just, and he was that guy, man. He just, just put his head down and drove through, and like I say, excelled in every sport he ever played, and played a little in college, and then he decided he wanted to focus on his studies, and from the job he picked to the specific company he picked, like he planned it out, and now he's, just ultra successful. Way beyond what anybody. If you imagine what you would want your son to do, he's exceeded it 10,000 times. So,
That's a pretty high bar.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. That's who he's been.
I get it.
That's who he's always been, and he'll always be.
So that's quite the upbringing and quite the early stages of life. So, kid at 17, and then years down the road you added 2 more to that, and first marriage happened. You found the right one after that, and now, that's not easy times. It's not easy to. You say it easily enough, but you go through difficult stuff amongst all of that.
Yeah, but it's. Everything happens for a reason, and everything happens. I'm not going to say everything's preordained, but I don't know if we talked about it before, but all the time people that say, I think I mentioned it in our small group one time. People that say, well, if you could go back and do it all over again, would you change anything? No, because I'm happy with who I am. I'm excited about who I am and where I am, and I wouldn't be who I am, where I am, except to go through what I haven't gone through anything. I've not had a tough life. I've loved every second of it. I don't have regrets. I don't have.
Let me ask you a question. So, and I get that. You wouldn't go back. You wouldn't change anything. All of that has made you be who you are. If you changed one little factor of that, you might be a completely different person. Would you change anything? And it just popped into my head. Would you change anything about yourself right now? Was there something that if you could work on something, improve something, change something?
What do you mean, like wave a magic wand, or do you mean are there things about myself that I'd like to change? Yeah, obviously.
The second one.
Oh yeah, 100%.
What's top of the list?
Well, there's a lot.
I
have a hard time saying no.
Okay.
Just had a sermon about it this week.
Yes, we
in
did.
church.
Yeah. Did that speak to you?
100%. I'm not a control freak, but I just feel like if somebody asked me to do something, they feel like I would be the best to do it. And I'd hate for them to have it done less than that. And I'm always right? No. But that weighs
Never
on
wrong.
me. Like, they came to me for a reason. You know? And
So you want to tell them yes?
Yeah. I want to help where I can. And with this church we planted, you know, I wanted to be hands-on in the weeds. You know, I've done production in churches for a long time. I just wanted to do it the way I thought it should be done. Of course, I've had to change my perspective
Sure.
of what I think, which is good for me. You know, like the way I thought it should be done isn't always right. Sometimes it's done a certain way just because that's the way you have to do it.
Well, we have to be open to change, right?
Right. Yeah. And I like to grow with stuff like that. I hate to, you know, I never want to be that grumpy old guy that's set in his ways and can't change.
Do you feel like you're saying yes to too much?
I am. I do.
If you could cross one item off your list, what would that item be?
That's the problem. So much of it
Too
is
many?
So, well, you know, a lot of times when people think about that, they think of a spectrum of things you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm doing this over here, and I'm doing this over here, and I do this up here. But my stuff is all interwoven. And so, like, it's like playing Jenga. Like, I can't stop doing that because it affects this.
Tower would fall.
Yeah, I can't stop doing that. You know, I've picked some really interconnected things to get involved. And that's the thing. I don't do these wild, disparate things that are different.
You're not taking on a new hobby. You're not
right.
like...
I mean, it's all, you know, it took me 3 years of being in a church plant to realize that, like, I only have 1 day a week where I'm not at work or at church. And church with the two campuses is essentially a 10-hour day. So, I mean, like, I have Saturday. That's it. That's when you got to cram in everything. Hang out with my grandkids. Hang out with my daughters. Hang out with my wife. Cut the grass. You know, all that stuff. It's got to be done on Saturday. Now, I chose this, and that's what I wanted to do, and that's
could
part
change
of
your
it.
mind. You could take some, but if you take one piece of the tower out, then the rest of it'll crumble.
Yeah.
Well, so burnout's real, you know, and I honestly don't know, like, and I need time to recharge my batteries, and that's a difficult thing to find. 1 day a week to recharge. I mean, it sounds like that's enough for you.
Yeah. And we keep it pretty light during the week. Well, we don't. I mean,
At work?
No. During the week, like our after work time is. I just said we take it like we relax during the week, but we don't. I mean, I'm doing something. I'm at a meeting for church or at a rehearsal for church, guaranteed on Monday and Wednesday or Monday and Thursday night, and then I play softball 2 other nights a week, and then, you know,
not to mention work on top of all that.
Work on top of that, the with the middle daughter in college now, not as much, but the youngest, I mean, plays. We're getting ready to start into a season where she will be at her high school 3 nights a week because she plays in. For instance, they want her to play in this ensemble, or like, can you play the French horn? Well, she's never played the French horn, but it takes her 10 minutes to figure it out. So she's playing French horn, playing saxophone, she's playing bass, playing keys, she's singing, she plays violin, standing bass. So she plays with all these different groups, which, you know, people are like, oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, well, you know, your son or daughter, and they're great, but they only play in wind ensemble, and you get all excited and you get gussied up and you go see them play in wind ensemble on Tuesday night
and
for the Christmas program, and you're done. But my daughter's playing with your son, and now tomorrow night she's playing with everybody else's kids, and then, you know, we counted in the spring, I think it was out of a 3-week period, so 5 weeknights. So out of a 15-day period, we were there 10 times. Now, we love every one of those concerts, beginning to end. We love that. We love watching her perform.
Which makes it easier.
I mean, we want to be there. But then when somebody says, hey, can you do this? You know, I'll say, yeah, so I end up doing it, you know.
Too much.
I do it afterwards. I get home, I get on the computer, and we figure out something for what we're doing. That's where you have to learn to back off.
Well, so how do you? So you got one. I mean, so you got one day where you're not committed to a whole bunch of different stuff, and obviously you spend that day doing stuff. But how do you not burn out? Like, what keeps you? I mean, and granted, like, the stuff with the daughters, it's enjoyable and you like it.
Well, see, I don't know, but I hear people talking about all the time, like burning out. But like, a lot of times I look at those people and I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, you have to lay on the floor? You can't get up and go somewhere? Like, come on.
I guess I don't know how I would define burnout.
Like, get it together, But the other thing is, and what I really wanted to say about the concerts is the same thing I'll say about church or softball or whatever. I want to be at those places. Yeah, that's what I mean.
These things they fill your cup up. They're not necessarily draining you.
Yeah, we just got a new pack of backgrounds for the screen at church, and I'm so excited about the ones I've chosen this week. I can't wait to get up at 5:00 Sunday morning so I can get to church and get those things. I worked on that late last night, just getting all the backgrounds right.
I know that I know a little bit more about you than whoever may be listening to this, but like, how long has the church, or even on a broader scale, how long has God or your faith been important to you?
I mean, since I can remember, I was raised in the church. Of course, like anybody, like I was into youth group, or like anybody that goes to church, I was into youth group. When I got into high school and started working, I worked at King's Dominion. You're never allowed to have a Sunday off.
At King's Dominion?
Yeah. From the lowest guy, measuring people for the rides, to the CEO.
You're working on a Sunday.
Yeah. You got to make hay when the sun's shining, and
sure.
The sun shines at King's Dominion on Saturday and Sunday. That's when the big crowds are. So you have to. So I didn't go to church. Now,
And then you go to church?
No, you didn't go to church.
Did not go to church. Gotcha.
Yeah. You just can't.
How would you do that?
You work your. When the park's not open during the week and only open the weekend, you're working double shifts so you make the money. And then once it does, you can't take those days off. And I moved up into management, and so there's basically two people doing the same job, and one of them has to be there from the time the park opens till it closes. So,
jeez.
To get your one day off a week, you also had to work doubles. You had to overlap. Somebody worked from 7 to 5, and then somebody else comes in at 1 and works until whenever the park closes. Sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning.
Your relief.
And sometimes you have to turn around and be back there at 6 or 7 the next morning. So that's you just don't have time to go to church. No, you don't have to go to church to be a Christian. You don't have to go to church to have faith or believe in God. It helps. It's where you find the community aspect of it.
Maybe learn a couple of new things.
Well, you also, and you didn't ask me this, but I'll shoehorn this in. So the church we were at before we went to Cornerstone, which is where we launched New Community, the church we go to.
Before Cornerstone.
Before Cornerstone, we were at a Methodist church, because I grew up Methodist.
Didn't know that.
Shrinking. There were not many kids left, and you can always tell the health of a church by how many kids there are. Because old people like us, or like me and Kendra, not you, you're young, but we're going to fall by the wayside. 51.
Okay.
We're going to fall by the wayside at some point.
You and Kendra.
We're going to die. Somebody's got to come along and keep that going. And if you don't have young people in your church, you're done.
You're dying.
Yeah. And so Kendra was the head of Christian education for the church. And we used to talk about it. We're like, we have to change something, because they need to hear another voice. For instance, non sequitur, like when my son started playing high school football, he played with some of the guys that I had coached with. And they asked me if I wanted to coach. They're like, just come coach with us. We'll put you on the payroll. But I wanted him to hear another perspective. And so we used to say about the kids, like, the same person that's yelling at you to get your clothes on and get in the car to go to church is not the same person you shouldn't be the same person teaching you about the love of Jesus a half an hour later when you get there.
Yeah.
you won't. You just need to hear another perspective, and that's the way we've always been about teachers. And maybe this teacher has some crazy ideas, but you need to expose your kids to different points of view. You can learn. You can use it as a teaching tool. Hey, that's not correct.
Don't listen to this.
Don't listen to that. But you got to know it's there. Yeah. So that was our thing. It was like you need to hear other voices. And so like when you go to church, the community aspect of it is, I hear this sermon, or I read this scripture, and this is what I think about it.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about our small group, unless we're not supposed to mention it.
Mention it.
The best thing about our small group is we don't all hear it the same way. We don't all interpret it the same way.
Obviously, we all hear it completely different ways.
Right. And is this guy completely right and that guy completely wrong? No. But you can grab some little jewels out of each one of them, and you may not change your mind, but
a different perspective.
Yeah, you just
I don't think
turn it.
You can never have too many perspectives. You grasp what you want to grasp and leave what you don't.
Well, and I like to hear somebody that comes up with what I call off the wall idea. I mean, so in a context of a church, or at work, or in a context of a bunch of guys hanging out, like it's just something outlandish. And I'm always fascinated by how did you get
there
from what I would call like clear rational thought to here. Like, what made you go from here to here? To me, that's as interesting as whatever you've got to say, or what the end result. Like, how'd you get there?
Like, are aliens angels, or are angels aliens?
Right. Like, what makes you jump from?
Is that an example of what you? It's just something I've heard recently.
Yeah. Well, and there's other ones that people have. People have these like long involved theories about levels of heaven.
Are there levels of heaven?
I don't think there are.
Is everybody equal in heaven?
I believe so.
Okay. What about the rewards and the crowns?
But I mean, Scripture says you lay down your trophies, which as a guy who sells trophies, I think is a horrible idea, unless you're going to buy more. But yeah. So we saw it in The Chosen. Is your father rich? He is, but not in the way you think.
Yeah.
Gold is just a mineral.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. A diamond is just a rock. A dollar bill is just a dollar bill. It's not. That's not rich. That's not.
Well, so these things are trophies. Well, you're right, and they're just things, and you cannot take them with us when we go to heaven. But so these are what people may consider trophies here on this planet. Trophies in heaven may be completely different. Your knowledge on the Bible is so much more than mine. I mean, I've got minimal knowledge on the Bible, but and I could be very wrong about this and most things, but I think the Bible does say something about how like there are rewards in heaven based on what you do down here. And am I
right? But so you have to. I really think, and honestly, this applies in everyday life, like. I always want people to define a word for me.
Sure.
Hey, are you happy?
What means happy?
What does happy mean?
Yeah.
Are you satisfied? What does satisfied mean? Do you think we're going to get some rewards?
What are those rewards?
What are rewards?
But yeah. Okay.
I always, and this may have been taught to me totally wrong, but I always go back to the story of it'll be easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it will for a rich man to get into heaven. And people get hung up on. But when I was a kid, I was like, I'm picturing a camel going through a sewing needle, but it's talking about the needle in a wall of a city. Like that was the reference then.
The eye of the needle.
Yeah.
Give me the.
Well, so an army could not invade a city because there were narrow slits in the wall you could only get like a camel through. You couldn't get a camel loaded with stuff. You'd have to stop outside the walls, unload everything, and come in one by one and one bag by one. And if you had nefarious intentions, by the time you started loading your supplies for war into the walls of the city, somebody would...
I mean, you're getting checked at the gate.
Yeah, somebody would stop you right there. And so that's what I mean when I say, like, are there rewards in heaven? Absolutely. But I don't think there's a line where they're like, all right, here are your 7 gold cups, and you get 2 diamonds, and you get a lump of coal, you get, a toy. I mean, I think the rewards are spiritual and they're,
Yeah.
and I think it's taking words that have existed for eons.
Well, it's putting our spin on them.
And going back to the real definition of the word.
And whatever, yeah, I do know.
People think rewards are like, oh, give me a Lamborghini and you get, a gold chalice. No, because you have they have no intrinsic value in heaven.
What's the purpose? Yeah, there is no. I mean, a wooden cup can do the same thing as a golden cup,
right,
for sure. Yeah.
And what about how have we determined that one thing is more expensive? See, that's where the free will. That's where your interpretation of something. We as humans, we just foul up everything, including the definition of words.
We're pretty good at that, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the greatest things. I always used to talk to my son, like he would watch Cribs. You guys are about the
MTV
same
Cribs.
age.
Yeah, he's 33, right? I'm 31.
And and I hate to be that guy like, hey, guess what? This is fake. But I mean, like
Don't tell me Cribs is fake.
they rent the houses. They rent the car. There's a guy called Jacob the Jeweler that rents the jewelry to the people in rap videos, and any kind of music videos, and in MTV Cribs. Like, those are not their cars. Those are not their.
What about their houses?
They're not their houses. They're like,
what?
I can't remember the one famous one that they really came out about it. And they always talk about it. Look at the way they're decorated. They're super sparse. It doesn't look like
That's such a crock.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Because
that's such a good show.
Well, you always talk like you hear about a rapper like, and I'm not picking a rap. I love rap. Wu-Tang. I mean,
okay. Yeah.
I love Wu-Tang. I love Biggie Smalls. I mean, but like, if your first album is about how you got all this money, where'd you get all that?
Where'd it come from?
Where'd it come from?
Well, but arguably, rappers rap about things that aren't true.
Right. So, but then you sign your record deal. Well, money is made off of those records, but it's not made by the artists.
Hey.
It's the old boy band method where hey, we're going to give you guys each $100,000. And they're like, we've never had $100,000. You don't realize that your albums are going to sell for $250 million.
Yeah.
But the guy that put this group together, he just signed you into a contract where he's going to give you $100,000 a year. And that's it.
Man.
You're not getting that. And they have to sue and fight.
That's why you have attorneys. That's why you have agents, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, by the time, these guys sign you into an ironclad contract that you got to buy yourself out of.
Yeah. Dang.
And so.
Don't sign on the bottom line until you know what you're signing.
But that's what I say, like, definition of that. And not like he was like, oh, I'm going to go off and become a rapper. But I mean, like, his definition of success is, the guy's wearing $200,000 worth of diamonds sitting on the hood of a
Ferrari whatever it may
or a
be.
G-Wagon or whatever, and there's this nice McMansion behind him, but none of it's his.
I had no idea.
And it's also not the measure of success.
It makes sense. Well, okay, actually, that begs a really good question. How do you measure success?
I mean, it's how you're. And I don't want to get into this, like you do something so you'll be perceived a certain way, but like success to me is you and your family have what they need.
Okay.
You are able to help other people get what they need. Like you're charitable.
And not even
time.
necessarily. Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
no, that's it. Yeah. Keep going.
With your time, with your resources, with your it's not necessarily stroking a check to somebody.
No, and that's what people think too.
That stuff will be gone. It goes away.
Well, so pour into other people, not necessarily with your money, with something that is more valuable.
Well, like doing mission work,
which you've done a lot of.
There's still buildings standing that we did in 2003.
Yeah.
But if I'd have just gone down there and said, here's the equivalent cash of what
it probably would have blown that money on something they didn't need.
The government would have taken some of it,
yeah.
or blown it, or the devaluation of the dollar, or the economy, or
Well, that's kind of how corruption happens. You get too much money, don't know what to do with it, then it goes to the wrong places.
Yeah. And so that's the being able to help people Being able to, being able to help. Our world is so connected now when it wasn't before. So the opportunities to, like when our daughter went to Israel, thank goodness it was before, it was early this summer, not late this summer.
Yeah, no kidding.
Or early fall. But having that opportunity, like, go, my daughter who, Abby was, there was a time when she wouldn't leave our side when she was little, but she went to Israel without us. She
all
also,
by herself, in a way.
Yeah, she had, she was with a group,
sure.
but
she didn't
mom
have her
and
parents.
dad weren't there.
Yeah.
Older brother wasn't there. And then a year before that, she did a World War II trip where they went all the way through London into any place there were major battles. The Battle of the Bulge, the Blitz in London. They went through Dachau and Auschwitz, and then they came back up through Holland. They ended up going back to Normandy. They were on Omaha Beach, like allowing your kids to do something. Like I would have killed to have done that, but the opportunity wasn't there.
Yeah,
and so like that's how I'm like expanding your kids' horizons, having them understand.
I can't fathom what's it called? Omaha Beach?
Omaha
Is that
Beach.
imagine standing there in that sand, knowing just how
What
many
happened
lives. There. Yeah,
and that's
kind of hard to wrap your mind around.
It is, and I've watched documentaries and I'm fascinated by World War II. I've read hundreds of books. I'm reading a great one right now on the Battle of the Bulge, written from a British perspective, which amazingly somehow makes the British the heroes. I'm a big General Patton guy, but apparently, Bernard Montgomery was so much better than Patton, according to this book, that he basically saved his butt, which is untrue.
Tip of the iceberg.
But I want to read that. I've never heard the British perspective of the Battle of the Bulge.
And you can't have too many perspectives.
Right.
So let me ask you this. I'm going on my first mission trip next year, summer of next year. Never been on one before. What advice would you have for somebody who has never done something like that?
The best advice I can give somebody going on a mission trip is, and this wouldn't have been true 25 years ago, ditch your phone immediately.
Okay.
Turn it off.
Like just don't use it
leave
for
the
an hour or
battery
two?
here. Whatever you got to do. You need to, a mission trip should be, I'm not an expert. So you might have better advice from someone else, but I've been on my share. Mission trips are twofold. You're doing physical work and spiritual work to advance the kingdom of God, whatever form that takes. Building a school so that kids who don't have that opportunity to learn have a place to learn. Sports fields so they can exercise and form teams. Which I'm a big team sports guy. I always say I can pick somebody out that played team sports and somebody that didn't. There's nothing wrong with one or the other, but
did I play team sports or did I not?
I don't feel like you did. I'm talking high school, like advanced level. Did you?
Why not? What's wrong with me? What am I?
No, there's nothing wrong.
I'm just not
with
checking that box.
It's just not.
I didn't play team sports. You're 100% right.
And it's not always team sports got great, non-team sports got bad.
That's fair.
But you can tell a guy who's had to rely on someone beside him to. Oh, but you were in the military.
I was. That's a team sport.
It is.
It wasn't in high school.
No, but it's in your formative years. But if I don't make the block, my quarterback gets run over through no fault of his own.
Yeah.
If I don't show up to practice, then we don't get done what we need to get done. So
you're part of a bigger machine.
You're part of you're a cog in a machine, but your job is ultra important, and you got to show up on time and ready to go. And you need to show up on time and ready to go to work. You need to show up on time and ready to go at your mission. You need to show up on time ready to go for your friends.
In life,
for weddings,
it kind of
for
translates
funerals.
to life.
Yeah, it's everything. And so like I say, building a baseball field. You're going to wherever. I'm not going to say where you're going. You might not want people to know, but you might need a soccer field.
Please.
Okay. And so you're doing. So that's the one thing you're doing. You're pouring out. I'm giving you my physical labor. I'm going to be physically and emotionally drained at the end of the day because I've worked very hard, and I'm in an unfamiliar country where it's way hotter than it is here.
That's what I've heard.
Or, and that. Now, what that will do is when you are, and I think I told you the story when we used to take James Madison students. My buddy was the campus minister. They would have an alternative spring break instead of going to South Padre Island or a beach and everybody
Cancun,
gets naked and gets drunk.
Yeah.
We would take these kids and do mission trips with them.
It's a good alternative.
This was in the probably 2005 to 2012, 13. And first thing we do is confiscate their cell phones, which, it ate their, and then we worked them like dogs. We fed them what they needed to eat, but not overfed them, and no treats, no
sugary snacks.
You drank. What we would always do is we would always bring in help that we did a lot of the stuff in the Bahamas where my buddy's wife was from. So we had no shortage of people willing to show up and cook. We're going to eat local food. We're not bringing in our own processed food. So, we had some rumbly tumblies and we, people that complained.
Rumbly tumblies.
But when people are stripped away and they got nothing else, that's why they put prisoners in solitary confinement. That's why they put, when they interrogate people, they deny them, except for what they need to live. They give them bread and water. They cut the lights out. They don't let them talk to anyone else, because when you're in that state, you're so raw and open that you're ready to hear what you need to hear. It's why in football, in summer practice, you run people just constantly. But burn out 5,000 calories because it's just like they're just stripped. They're just drained. And when you're drained and you're stressed and you're so ready to hear what your fellow mission person has to say, what the people in that town have to say, like you want information, because
you're kind of like you're less in control, and when you're holding on to control too much, or you're controlling your thoughts or your actions, you're in control and not whatever else is out there.
And if you go to a place where they eat breakfast at 3 o'clock in the morning, get out of bed and eat breakfast at 3 o'clock in the morning. And if you go to a place where they eat spaghetti with a knife instead of a fork, eat it with a knife instead of a fork. And you gain people's trust by showing, hey, you don't do what I do, but I'm willing to try what you're doing. I'm willing to do that.
Open my heart a little bit.
Yeah, and you'll be surprised how you just your clarity, your ability to. You might have a wall in your prayer life, or I don't hear the word of God. I don't hear these things. You'll be surprised when it's the whole point of the fast. That's when you fast. That's the whole idea.
Breaking down walls. It's changing your routine.
Yeah, you're almost flushing your brain.
Well, so you bring up two interesting things, and so breaking down walls, talking about a fast, talking about cell phones. Like I've got so many opinions and thoughts on cell phones, but like I've noticed, and if to bring God into it, when I'm sitting here staring at this phone, there may be good, cool, informational stuff on God on that thing, but I'm not thinking about Him, or I'm not like spending time with Him. But I think these phones, nothing is inherently evil in and of itself, but the way we use them. And I think the phone. So your advice to put down the cell phones, it's the first thing you do on a mission trip. I think you're removing a distraction that's usually in our way, in our hands. You know what I'm saying? I think that's good advice. I think phones, if nothing's inherently evil, I think phones are getting pretty darn close.
So I lived so long without a cell phone. One, because I didn't have them for a long time. But we used to go follow the Grateful Dead for half of a tour. We had an Atlas. It was 4 of us, 5 of us sometimes. We had an Atlas.
Man, I bet that was a party.
And that's it. It was. But we didn't have GPS. We didn't have, we would stop at a payphone and call to let people know we were alive, Here we are.
Arguably better times.
Right. Now, there were a lot of times when we were all spending the night at each other's houses, or spending the week, during the summer at somebody else's houses. And somehow our parents never called and checked up on that.
You think they knew and they just
I don't
didn't?
think so. My dad would not have.
Okay.
He wouldn't have approved. But what I mean is, like, we played the license plate game in the car. You know, we played Would You Rather. We played, Never
I
Have
Spy.
I Ever. I Spy. We
Yeah.
played all these games. We ragged on each other. We fist fought. We did whatever. And when we got to wherever we were staying, we were probably sleeping in a car, but we would just go out and meet people, and we would make our own fun.
When you kind of lived life there in the moment, you weren't so distracted by this thing in your hand.
Yeah, and you like I say, you would make a phone call from a payphone, just to let somebody know, hey, we were in Providence, Rhode Island. We're now in we're at the Meadowlands
We're
in
alive.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
We're alive. We're gonna be okay. And so I say that to say, if I leave home tomorrow to go somewhere and I don't have my cell phone, I will. I say cell phone. I'll turn around and come back and get it.
Well, who wouldn't though? Everybody would.
But I drove all over and I've driven all over the country without it.
So why do you think that? I mean, so what is it? Why? It's just that's the world right now.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just-
the thing is, if you would have told me in 1980, I was in high school from 86 to 90. If you'd have told me in 1986 that one day I'd have something in my hand that had every song I wanted to listen to, the ability to watch any baseball, football, basketball,
Every
hockey game
dictionary,
I wanted to, anything I ever wanted to know, right here. I don't have to carry around 200 tapes anymore, or 4,500 CDs, or an encyclopedia. Or if you'd have told me that, I would have been like, you have obviously lost your mind. You need to break the Xanax bars in half before you take them from now on.
Cut down on the dose.
Yeah, and so that convenience is just.
Well, here's the problem. Here's where I think the issues come. I mean, it's got the ability. The phones have the ability to be really good and to be really not
For
helpful.
what they're for, yeah.
And to communicate with loved ones. But then when we take, as man does, or humankind, we take them and we turn it. I mean, but then you also have access to a million things that you shouldn't have access to.
Right.
And even if it's just, some people can't just sit on a line and wait to pick up their medicine prescription without having this thing in their hand and filling their bodies with stuff it shouldn't be filled with.
I use a cell phone the right way at work. Because all of our email, our platforms.
You need
are
it.
all,
I mean,
I
these
have
days
to have
you
it. I'm
need it,
moving
yeah.
around the building. I'm out of the building. I worked from home this morning. I use it at church. I'm sure to somebody looking in on me, they can see me pretty easily. It looks like I'm playing on my phone, but like I'm getting a text from the worship director.
Yeah.
Hey, we're changing the third song. I'm getting a text from someone else. Hey, I'm hearing a beep out of the speaker. Something's going on.
You kind of need it.
People are watching from home and saying, "Hey, the sound level of the cymbals is too high, too low. Can you fix it?" So like I can't imagine doing a church service like we do without it. Now here's where I don't like, and this is 100% me. This is something I want to change about myself. I need to go to sleep at a certain time every night so I can be my best the next day for everybody, from my family to my boss to people I encounter.
It starts with the sleep.
I cut my TV off at the correct time.
What's the
And
correct?
let's say 10:30.
Okay.
Take me a maximum of 5 minutes to walk upstairs and go to the bathroom and then hop into bed and go to sleep. I find myself an hour and a half later sitting in the dark on the couch watching people do backflips off of like railroad bridges into the river.
It's a distraction.
Why? And then that leads to another one.
So is it addictive? It is addictive.
It is.
It's obviously. It's addictive.
Like, I wear contacts. My contacts will. I haven't blinked. My contacts will be. I feel like sandpaper. The dog is like walking back and forth. Like, are we doing this? Are we going to bed?
like, dog, I'm here.
What's happening? Yeah. And I'm a grown man, so I can't be the guy that's like, oh, you kids, get off of your.
No, not when we're doing it. You're doing it. So I mean, is that the enemy?
So I don't know. With my faith, I think I told you guys before, I don't pray for something to happen. I pray for the wisdom to be able to respond in the correct way, or to know what to do to get to that goal.
Because you can't control what happens.
You know.
Well, he can.
But I mean, I'm not going to pray, I want $1 million.
No.
Give me a new car.
Well, those are very selfish prayers.
They are. But I know to pray that if I were to come into money, how would I use it the right way?
Okay.
And so that's the thing with like, I just don't know. When you talk about it being the enemy, is it that? To me, sometimes that's a cop-out. I don't want to sit on the couch all night and look at my phone, but the enemy did it to me. What can I do? You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes the enemy is you, not necessarily Dane.
Well, no, but we are our own worst enemies. Well, and so like the phone is not the enemy. The phone is a thing, and it doesn't have. It's the way we use it.
It's just like gun control, you know?
Yeah, guns don't kill anybody. People do.
Yeah. I mean, I have guns that have not bothered a person since the last time. Well, not that I shot somebody, but you know, they sit in their gun safe, or they sit, or we go shooting as a group, and none of those guns have ever done anything evil. This phone has never, you know, pinned me to the couch and made me look at it.
No, that's fair. But where does if there's evil, where does the evil come in? It's like what we do with it. It's how we choose to use that phone, and the choice is ours.
And what's out there is so. I mean, there's some horrible stuff out there, and access to everyone.
And
I always say information is. Everyone should have information, but
how do we use it?
Too much information.
Yeah,
out there.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point, though.
People don't know how to discern it.
Don't know how to discern it.
Yeah, I saw. You know, you take any topic. Well, I saw this video, and that's true. Well, I saw this video, and that's true. Well, truth is probably either somewhere in the middle, or you're both completely off.
Yeah. It's not black and white like that.
Right. And the thing is, what divides the world today is we're all in here and on the computer, and these algorithms and they winnow down any opposing voice to whatever you like. They figure out what you like really quickly. And then that's all you get. You're not going to get the other. You're not going to get the other side. I mean, not even politics. If you're a Philadelphia Phillies fan, you're not going to get positive. You're not going to get positive news about the Cubs.
No,
you're going to get news
which is scary in its own way.
Right? They're gonna give you the news, talk about how the Cubs are cheating. And so that's I just don't believe the devil sat in a factory and decided, you know what, we're going to make cell phones. And
so what power does he have? Does he have power? Let's back it up.
Yes. But I always wonder, is it like a time bomb that was planted in you when you were little or when you were born, and you choose whether or not to activate it? I don't know that he has time to, I don't think the devil sits down like he's playing, Risk and goes, all right, I'm going to take Dane and I'm going to put him in a situation where bad things can happen.
That's maybe.
I just think the bad things are there.
They're out there.
And then, yeah.
I mean, we are weak sometimes, or we have the free will to choose things we shouldn't choose.
Right. Now, a caveat there. I was raised in a Methodist church. We don't talk about the devil.
Really?
Yeah.
Does it give them too much power?
I don't know. They just don't talk about the devil.
It's a very real thing, though, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
I just found Methodists to be very it's very bland and milk toast. It's kind of
milk toast. Is that what you said?
Yeah. With the Q,
vanilla,
not the K. Yeah. Just very.
Yeah.
Very happy, and there's no bad. Let's be good to each other.
Understood. Well, and take the sermon that was on Sunday, but I actually really like. I mean, so and it talked, I think, a little bit about the enemy and distractions that are you. And so, you had Nehemiah who was building this wall,
right.
And it was something as simple as a rumor, or something as simple as a letter from another town saying, "Hey, there's something important going on. Come here." But I mean, and he said, no, I'm not coming down off the wall. I'm not going to stop this project that I'm doing for something that may or may not be true.
Be true.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, it's not necessarily like, it's not that letter isn't what's evil. I mean, that letter's not evil. I guess it's not as black and white as I've sometimes made it out to be.
Right. But you have to bring it into black and white to identify it or to talk about it, which is the same thing with Christianity. It kind of floats up here, but we have to bring it down and be taught it,
actualize
in
it,
parables, and have it in a sense we can understand, or in a form we can understand. That's I always say, I used to watch Kurt Warner. It was God's will that I threw that pass and Torrey Holt caught it in the end zone. I used to be like, so God hates cornerbacks? Like, he just went, yep, the Rams are going to win. Now, was it God's will that it gave you the discernment, like we talked about before, of to know to work hard and to keep your mind and your body ready for the job that you've been assigned? 100%.
Yeah.
But the outcome based of it, I don't believe God does that.
Well, and he's not like pulling strings up in heaven with puppets and making things. Well, and so it's kind of it's interesting you say that. So like take this channel for example, but I've realized, I mean, I do think that the thought and the idea was something that I mean, is it over spiritualization to say that it was something that was given to me by him?
No.
So so just take that and let's just say that's an accurate statement. So, but I've realized, I mean, the legwork and the doing this stuff and like making this happen, like it's me who's doing that, and like figuring out who to bring on, who what to say. I mean, it's all very much. I mean, he's not pulling strings. It's just something. Go ahead.
But do you pray to God to give you the wisdom to know?
100%.
Right. And see, that's where I live.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's our actions. We're performing. We're the ones walking forward and making the things happen. But give me the wisdom. Help me to understand what's right, what's wrong. I mean, and we still have the free choice, and sometimes we're going to make mistakes.
Right. Should I do it at all?
So how do you discern that? That brings up a really good question. How do you discern what's right and what's right and wrong? Is it your gut? Is it how you feel?
And that's the thing. So that's what I talk about all the time. Kendra and I talk about it. What is your gut feeling? Maybe your gut feeling is the Word of God.
I think and it goes back to the conversation Ron and I had, but sometimes I think it's just this little voice inside you that says do this or don't do this or.
Yep, there's things I've done before that I'm like, I don't know why I made that decision, but it worked out.
So is your gut feeling his spirit trying to speak to you? Yeah.
Do you train yourself through thoughtfulness, through prayer, through scripture, through sermons to be in the position to make the right decision when it happens? Is that it? Is that what it is? I used to always say, like, everybody who's ever had a sick parent, friend, relative, child, coworker, you always pray for them not to die. But they die.
They still die, sure.
So it's not an outcome based. My YouTube channel is successful because I prayed for it. Well, what if you pray that this is going to take off and help people all around the world and start a revolution of thought and consideration and make people better? And then it flops. Happen. Does that mean God hates YouTube, hates Dane, hates me and Ron Sims? Huh. But you could probably deconstruct it and go, there's some things I could have done. I could have thought about this a little more.
Yeah.
So that's like I say, in the huddle, God, we're going to throw the pass. If it's your will, make it a touchdown. I always like to think and I do it at work. I don't have time to make those decisions. These decisions are beneath me. Go ask somebody else that handles that. I'm worried about next week. Like I'm trying to figure out this stuff. And I just think God's got a lot going on, more so than worrying about a touchdown or a YouTube channel.
Well, and he doesn't care about like football games. I think what he cares about is his kingdom, and so.
But Kurt, I'm sorry I cut you off.
Do it.
But Kurt Warner raises the profile of Christians and gives glory to God, so it's not a bad thing. He's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I just don't think he should say it was God's will that we won.
So
he may have never said that. I may have just come up with it. But I've heard athletes. I just remember him being the one that was like the most prevalent of saying,
yeah,
it was God's will that we won.
Well, so everybody has like a little bit of a different relationship with God. And like I'm still trying to sort through mine and develop in it and learning and trying to grow. And so like, but no two people sitting or nobody sitting everybody sitting across from me is going to have their own versions of a relationship. I mean, what is, and this is like, go ahead.
I have friends who say that they literally talk to God and hear a voice.
Seriously?
That's not me.
What is it? Well, and now I'm wondering what your relationship with God is like. When's the last time you, so when you hear from him?
So I don't hear from God.
Yeah, I never have either.
I hear from God.
I don't Break that down for me.
When I talk about those, that mission trip, and I've told this story before, the buddy of mine was a pastor at James Madison, and we still talked all the time, but we didn't live in the same city anymore, and we just kind of would see each other here and there. And I knew that he was doing these trips, and I had no interest in him whatsoever. And I was climbing into the bed one night, and I just said, "Hey, Kendra," I just remember it was 11:28. I said, "You know what? I just feel called to go on one of those trips and help out. I feel like I could be a big help. I think I'm gonna call Derek tomorrow and ask him." And I hadn't talked to him in 4 months. Like, once again, this is pre-text messaging, so you didn't talk to your friends that lived out of town constantly.
And you didn't text them at 11:28 and
see what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's no lie. He called me. I got to work that next morning at 8:30, and he called me, and we talked for a second. He's like, "Man, I got to tell you the weirdest thing." He's like, "I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to say no, but just hear me out. Hear me out." He's like, "Would you like to go on the spring break, alternative spring break trip this year? I could really use you." And he's like, "Man, I was laying in bed last night." He's like, "Yeah, it's like
no way."
Right at 11. He said, "I know it was 11:30 because I want to say like that's when the Tonight Show started." He's like, right as it was coming on. He's like, and I was just like, I should ask Tyler to go on that trip with me. And I mean, you can hook me to a lie detector. I mean, I'll put up everything I own. I mean,
I don't doubt that for a second.
Now, something made. He never had that thought before because he thought, hey, he's got two little, because the girls had just been born. He's got two little kids. He's running a family business. He doesn't have time to do this. So he never asked me because he thought,
he's thinking about
something
you.
made him that night at that time. I'm going to do it.
When he was
something
compelled.
Made me, that night, that time, to do it. Because I was going to call him if he didn't call me. And so that's how God speaks to me.
So through, not even necessarily, like, so maybe through people, but not necessarily through, but just, I mean, I don't know how I would define that, but that's clearly, in my mind, that's a God moment, And
how does he put Kendra and I together? I dated other girls I could have married. She dated other guys she could have married. I was not going to let anyone near my son. And then all of a sudden, we end up in the same spot at the same time, and I almost immediately am like, yep, here we are.
So here,
that's how God speaks to me.
Through actions, through people.
Yeah, there's no go left. That's not.
I know. I want to hear. I would love to hear your friends who have heard him that way. Like, what does the voice of God sound like?
Yeah.
I mean, what do they? Have you asked them that?
They just say it sounds like their voice inside their own head.
Oh. Well, you have your voice saying stuff to you sometimes, don't you? Like, hey, this is not a good idea, or
yeah.
Do you?
So is that God?
Or is it his spirit? Yeah, I know. I'm on the same page.
And I'm leery of somebody who claims to know all this stuff.
That's fair. That's a really good point. I mean, we can think.
My
know.
My BS detector goes off hard with somebody like, well, I can answer that. It's
so
talk to God.
Well, and before we start
We've been doing this for.
before we start winding down, I want to know a little bit more about what so you've been through your fair share, and a kid at a young age and a couple of different marriages, and so you've had life experiences and you've had some version of your faith throughout all of that. But so like right now, what does your faith look like? Do you pray? Do you pray often? Do you spend time with God alone? You don't have much time alone. Like, do you carve time out for that? How do you build or maintain that relationship?
So, my crutch is that I've always been it's more of a service thing for me.
Okay.
I don't go to prayer meetings. I don't join prayer groups. I don't spend enough time praying. But I cut the grass at church, fix the roof at church. I run the sound at church.
Rehearsals. Monday nights.
And I think I'm half right and I'm half wrong. But like I see my mission that like somebody is coming to church Sunday that is on the fence about whether they want to be in church or not.
What they think. Yeah, sure.
And I'm trying to. I want you to hear the message. I want you to see the slides that we're showing and the pictures that we're showing.
You want it to look good.
I want you to be able to read the lyrics. Like and it's not like I'm doing it all, but my team wants to do everything we can to help you, new person or person that's been there forever, encounter God. And like some of that is like, I'll admit it's probably a cop out where it's like, I don't have to go to church Saturday and be part of the men's prayer breakfast because I went to a lead team meeting Monday night and I worked on the soundboard, like literally physically put it back together because it was broken on Tuesday night, and I set up all the slides on Wednesday night, and then I went to rehearsal on Thursday night. I don't have to go to that thing. I've done enough, and that's sometimes I think that's my way of like not. My prayer life's not great. It's just there's no two ways about it.
Understood. Yeah. Well, and sometimes I wonder if you like maybe pray with. I wonder if prayer looks a little different for everybody, and if you pray with your actions, or you.
And there's a little of that.
You get what I'm saying? Well, and then like service to others. So you don't get down in the garage floor, drop on your knees and pray, but like you pour your time out.
Right.
To others.
But I should do more of the.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
What's stopping you?
Busy playing softball. No, but it just, that's always. I've always, and I don't know anybody like that now, but I've met people in the past that prayer is going to get me through it. I've got a broken leg, but I'm not going to put a cast on it. Prayer is going to get me through it. No,
that seems a little
dangerous. If you're praying correctly, I think that if you wait to hear that voice is going to tell you, go to the orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah, they make doctors for that,
right? And
when you said that you pray for wisdom, and so I think that I don't think there's like one way to pray, but asking for wisdom, and like we were talking a little, and I won't give specifics, but we were talking Wednesday night, and you had that thing that you wanted to work on. And like, so seeking that strength to make that happen. I don't think you have to like fold your hands at the foot of the bed and ask for that. I think you're not giving yourself enough credit in a way.
Well, and the other thing too is like, I've started over the last like 5 years. Like I open my eyes when I pray in a group and look around and see what other people are doing. And are you taking a humble pose because you want to humble yourself before the Lord, or are you copying what you've seen somebody else do, or are you worried about what somebody else is going to see?
Or what they're going to think of you if your eyes... Yeah,
right.
I understand what you're saying.
And so, like, I'm like... I don't know what it's supposed to look like. Am I praying?
That's deep. Am I praying?
Am I praying anymore talking to myself when I'm driving down the street about something I'm, concerned about. Is that any less praying than me, like I say, laying down on the floor with my face covered with my hands?
What's interesting that you say, so that's deep. So it's interesting that you say, am I praying when I'm talking to myself driving down the road? And like what I will often do is when I'm driving down the road, I will sit there and have a conversation with God as if he were another person sitting there next to me. And all you're doing the exact same thing,
right.
Just talking to you. I mean, so there's no.
So who am I talking to?
Well, exactly.
I don't have to vocalize. I can hear my own thoughts.
Yeah.
So is that what I'm doing? Is that what prayer looks like? I don't know.
What does your heart say?
I don't know. I mean, I find myself in prayers all the time being like, hey, can we
Well, and like,
and I think some people think, oh, well, I prayed for 7.5 minutes. I did the right prayer.
Well, this comes from the show The Chosen, and I don't know if this is in the Bible or not. And so, but I'm and maybe you know this, but in the show The Chosen, Jesus says to his disciples, "Don't use all of these words, and don't make your prayers go for too long like the pagans do. They think their fancy words are going to get them into heaven."
Right.
And so it's not about your words. It's not about the length of your prayers. I think it's about your heart. So are you praying when you talk to yourself? What do you say when you're talking to yourself?
I mean, I just like talk through whatever it is.
Whatever's going on at the time. Yeah.
I'll have
I think that's
sample conversations. Like I have to talk to somebody at work about something, or if I have to talk to somebody on the production team at church about something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not going to be the best conversation. Like talking
sorting through how that may go.
How does it sound? And this.
Well, you're practicing at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, you're.
But that's not always. I mean, it's not always what it is. A lot of times I'll just be like, how can this be the way it is? It can't be. Something's got to change. What am I going to do to make this right? How do I get am I going to be able to do this? That kind of thing. Like, to me, that
the strength, the wisdom, the discipline.
It either borders on prayer or it's a cop out, being like, oh, you can just talk yourself in a car. You don't have to pray.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that black and white, and like this is what's prayer, this is what's not.
Right.
That's an interesting thought.
And I don't think and that's not to poo-poo what somebody else does. I don't think you're doing a bad thing if you have a 7-minute prayer. But I do hear people kind of just like
saying the same thing,
recycling.
20 different
you
times.
said this 3 times. Like, we get it.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe this is a better prayer for you to have.
God says pray in the closet.
Yeah, you have free time.
No,
apparently. Go
maybe no. She wants to. No. Yeah, I know. Well, and doesn't he say like, don't do it for show, don't do it to be seen by others, don't
Yeah.
She made it without knocking that camera down.
That's pretty good.
I know. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, and it's all a journey, growing and yeah, becoming better.
I always like that. But I could be wrong.
You always like that?
I don't trust somebody that's not willing to say that. I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, if you're too set,
I could be 100% wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we usually are wrong. I think it's a pretty good dog. You don't have pets, do you?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
What kind of pets?
Dog.
Hey, dog. What's the dog's name?
Lola.
Lola. Lola and Lady.
Yeah, Lola wears she broke it, but she used to wear a chain just like the one in your sticker.
Did she really?
It was a piece of from the church, like the Christmas play. It was like a big rope chain.
Yeah.
Like that. And it was plastic, and for some reason one of the girls brought it home and put it on the dog, and
it's stuck.
Oh yeah. If you go back through my Facebook, you'll see where Kendra one time posted this a couple years ago. Not only do I have to listen to Tyler ramble while we walk the neighborhood in the morning, I also have a stupid dog wearing a gold chain. If you try to take it off of her, she bites you.
Really? What kind of dog is Lola?
She's a boxer lab mix.
Okay. What, do you walk with Kendra in the mornings?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a good thing to be doing.
That's when we. In fact, we haven't for a while.
Stuff out.
We haven't we got to get back into our routine, because.
Lady.
It centers us. It gets us back. We talk
on the same page.
We talk the entire time, just back and forth, and it's good for us.
Well, I've only seen you and Kendra in very small settings, but I mean, like at church, you're smack dab in the middle of it. You're not, and I mean, she's doing her thing, and so I
Yep.
mean, you may be near each other all the time. That doesn't mean you're, you know.
Well, and we with two kids, well, one kid's still in the house, but both of them are home in the summer. But we got the grandkids, and her mom and dad, live close by, and we kind of keep an eye on our neighbor, and we have both involved in all this different. We're involved at church, but we're involved in different things, which means that I'm meeting on Thursday night with somebody, but she's meeting on Wednesday night, and so we don't see each other
multiple nights out of the
week.
week.
We just kind of pass in the
pass in the night.
In the night, yeah.
Yeah, is that what's the saying? Passing
passing in the night.
Ships passing in the night. Yeah. Yeah, she's about ready. She'll let you know.
She's
when
had
it's time.
enough.
Yeah, she'll let
That's
you know.
a good indicator.
It's cute.
Oh my gosh, it's 7:15.
Yeah, what time? I mean, this has been rolling for an hour and a half, probably. Well, you want to wrap it up in a prayer? Do you? If there's anybody out there, let me ask you this.
Just told you I was horrible at prayer.
Yeah, you're gonna say the prayer. If there's somebody out there who is a father at 17, just had a kid, wasn't expecting it, and they a brand new baby, their wife or mom isn't in the photo, they're a single dad at 17 years old, what piece of advice would you give that person?
Jeez. I would. It's hard for a mind.
Hey, no more.
And I wasn't the best when I was 17 about it. I mean, I was almost 18. I wasn't the best about it, but you got to start acting like an adult. Like
Now.
you'd like to still be a kid, but life's different now, and you can wish it wasn't. Not that you wish you didn't have a child, but like you could wish things hadn't changed.
Sure.
Things have changed, and like the one thing I would say is it's all about the kid.
Okay.
Your happiness should be derived from
Doing right by your kid.
Yep. And you know what? You're young. Suck it up for X number of years.
18.
And then you can do your own thing, whatever you want to do. You can destroy your own life, but don't destroy the kid's life. Don't turn it into a pissing match between you and whoever. No 4-year-old kid, no 5-year-old kid wants to see their dad and their mom and their dad's sister fight with each other. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what happens in these families. Everybody draws distinct lines.
Did your mom and your dad have a good marriage?
Oh yeah, I never saw my mom and dad argue.
Okay.
They talked it out.
There's like a couple of pieces of my childhood where I remember like big arguments, and like granted my parents are still very much alive, still together, very good family, very whatever. But there was I remember the arguments they had when I was a kid, and like my mom, I remember her like slamming the door, walking out the front door, and like they just these, and I guess. And that's even to be said. Like I had a great upbringing. My parents are still together, yet those are ingrained in my memory. Imagine if that was like the kid's life for years.
Yeah, constant yelling and screaming. That just screws up kids.
Yeah. So make it about the kid. Don't make it about your petty fight.
And it's none of. It sounds bad to say it's none of their business, but let's say we are having we're going through a rough time, or we're talking about something important. Like, the kids don't need to hear about that. It's just
have that conversation somewhere else. Yeah.
So,
okay.
Like I said, we just talk about something, right? I'm a big guy on like, let's talk about this right now. Obviously, you're passionate about it. I'm passionate about it. Let's
get it over with.
You're not gonna go have the argument in your own head for 3 days and then come back and get angry.
Hey, she 100% She did it last time. I need to like just keep her out of the garage.
Feed her some Benadryl.
Sorry about that. Put her to sleep. Yeah.
She wouldn't bother me.
She bothers me when she does that. I love you, and you bother me sometimes.
That's my dog is starved for attention, and she gets more attention than any one person ever.
Well, they're dog. I mean, they deserve the majority of it.
But she gave us a good amount of time where she's like, all right, you guys.
She did. Okay, so make it about the kid. Don't make it about you and your petty fights.
Yeah, you've given up a lot of what you are. You have to when you have kids.
Yeah, I imagine you do. Well, I don't know. I mean, you seem like you've done a really good job. I've never met Andrew, but I've met Lydia and Abby, and they're. I think you've done a really good
They're
job.
getting there, and it's mostly their mother.
Yeah.
I'm more comic relief, and
There you go.
I'm fun dad.
Do you want to? You want to say the prayer? You want me to?
I'd rather you do it.
Okay.
I'm not kidding. I'm not
Really?
good. I'm not good.
I don't know if I've
I'll
ever
be
heard
honest
you.
with you.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I appreciate.
I pray
the
on my
honesty.
own. I'm not an out loud.
Okay.
You know. Remember, keep it tight because I said people that go too long is not good.
All right. Deal.
I'm
not
you
the.
feel led to
I'm not
do.
the long and drawn on kind of guy. All right. Well, here we go. Father, thank you for the chance to make this happen. Thank you for Tyler being willing and open to come over, and for us to open our hearts and to open a conversation that may help us learn more about you or think about you in ways that we wouldn't otherwise think. As we go throughout this week and weekend, please help us to be more aware of your presence than we would have been without this conversation. Help us to spread your good and to care for those around us, and to remember that you and the relationship with you is the most important thing. In Jesus' name, amen.
I almost fell asleep.
So did the dog.
I gotta pee.
Do you? Have you had to go for a while?
No.
We got multiple bathrooms around here. Closest one's right there.
Right there? That's where I usually go.
Yeah.
Do you use a kayak a lot?
I kayak in the summer times. I mean, as the seasons change, so does the hobbies. I love to kayak. Have you ever been?
Yeah.
Not for you?
No, I used to canoe a lot. But that's what, I've had a jet ski for...
Do you have a jet ski right now? Yeah, you insured it with, yeah, that's right.
Dane. What's that? Yeah. It's like a jet ski. I'm like, why go 4 miles an hour? I can go 7.
Thank you for doing this.
That's fun.
Thank you for my stickers.
Yeah. Pretty badass.
Yeah.
I think you need to, we're going to get more, but you should give one to Durrell.
You think so?
Yeah. Maybe he'll give you one of his.